Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Beard and Hat Show. I'm Pat Richard. I'm the Beard.
And I'm Josh Blaylock, going with the hat on that one. Thank you for joining us for our second episode. We know it has been a brief minute since the last episode back at Microsoft Ignite, where we kicked off this new series. Obviously, we kicked it off right before the holidays and New Year and all that good stuff. But we're finally catching up. We're getting back to this. We're gonna plow ahead full speed in 2020, and we're starting off with a really special guest. Pat, would you care to introduce our guest?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite person at Microsoft, right, is probably the person I interface a lot with at different events. But we're blessed to have Senior PM Laurie Pottmeyer here. So, Laurie, tell us a little bit about what you do at Microsoft. What's a day in the life of Laurie like?
Oh, a day in the life of Laurie. Well, my name's Laurie Pottmeyer. Yep, I am a senior PM program manager at Microsoft, and I'm the community lead for Microsoft Teams. So I've been at Microsoft for a little over 14 years, and I've always been in unified communications. Started out with live meeting, if you, OCS or LCS. Really, I think when I started at Microsoft, we had LCS, and then moved quickly into OCS, and yeah. So I've been through the series of unified communications technologies, and worked with customers on customer programs, doing a lot of adoption work, user adoption, and feedback programs with our TAP program and various user feedback programs. And then about 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, moved into the role of the lead for the Microsoft Teams community. So some of the things I work on are one, and working with the two of you with the MVP program. So I sit in engineering, and I'm the lead for community within engineering to bring our customers and our partners and our MVPs connected to our engineering team to provide feedback and make sure that we're building the product and understanding the needs of everybody to build a product that works for everyone. And then beyond that, I also work with the Microsoft Tech community, which is our online community. That's over, I think, 113,000 members of the Microsoft Teams Tech community. So it's a huge group of people worldwide who are interested in or working on Microsoft Teams, where people have the opportunity to ask questions, give answers, and share their experiences. So that's a really great way that we are able to connect with people on a very large scale. And then I work with our different community groups, so our user groups and our different community events that take place around the world as well. So good stuff.
And we're thankful for having you in the group. I've been an MVP for like 14 years now, and I can say that early on, it was always tough to kind of interface with people at Microsoft. Sometimes it was difficult to get information going back and forth. And since you've been here, it's night and day. So thank you.
And I kind of came on as you came into that role. And so I've just felt like being an MVP is a breeze when it comes to interacting with Microsoft.
Well, when I came on board, I didn't even know what MVPs were. So I saw, I quickly learned who all of you were and the importance that you play really in providing feedback and the knowledge that you have about the product, but also the different various customers that you work with. And it's just imperative that we have that tight-knit group that we can go to and ask for feedback when we need it, and be able to have people that we can say, quickly, like, what are you thinking about? Or, here's what we're thinking. What are your thoughts? And have that two-way conversation in a safe environment, right? Where we're not ready to tell the world about something, but we can come to you and a select group of people who have knowledge about the product and see what you think. So that's really, really important to Microsoft Teams.
And we're not afraid to be openly critical in those meetings about what Microsoft is thinking and what we're thinking as people that work out in the real world and see what customers are trying to do and how the solution actually works in the real world versus the Microsoft perspective about here's how it should work. And that's been huge. So the fact that they're doing this embracing of the community better has just been fabulous. Let's talk about community as a whole, right? So I'm in near Detroit, so we've got a pretty good community here with user groups, and of course, there's some big conferences throughout the year that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But where's a good place to look for resources about how to find something in the community if somebody is, say, a Teams professional or an IT pro that just wants to be more involved in the community and find out more information that helps make their job easier?
Right. So, as far as just getting information, asking questions, first, I just want to say there's no stupid questions. I think that so many of us are so scared to ask the question because we don't want to put our name out there and ask something that maybe somebody's asked already and the answer's out there, we just couldn't find it, or we don't want to ask the question that everybody knows the answer to but us. And the reality is that anytime you ask a question, there's hundreds of people who have that same question. So I want to put it out there for anybody that's nervous about taking the leap of asking a question, whether that's an online community like the Microsoft Tech community, or even in person at a user group or sitting in the audience of a larger event, don't be afraid, because likely somebody sitting next to you has the same question and just isn't asking it. So put yourself out there, and there's, the community is very, very friendly. And I've never seen disrespect as far as, the silly questions. So don't be afraid to ask that. There's lots of places that you can go, though. The Microsoft Tech community is the website for that is aka.ms/Teams community. So that's a really great resource for your questions. And there's also, you can see in the Microsoft Tech community, there's a heading up at the top, and it says community events. And that's a really great place to see what's going on locally, all around the world. And it's pretty cool because you can filter by your location, you can filter by the product that you're looking for information on, or certain speakers that you're looking to see. So you can do all kinds of filtering, and there's online events as well as in-person events there. So it's a great place for a broad set of listings.
And it's not just a great place for looking what's out there. Is there someone looking for more information? It's also a good place that if you're not signed up on the tech community yet, get signed up and share your event. It's really easy to share an event, and then it's more accessible to, like you said, a much larger audience. So definitely utilize that moving forward.
Now, what about somebody that looks on tech community, doesn't see something locally? They're in an area, there is no user group, there's no other resources. What does somebody do if they want to start a user group? I mean, is there resources available for helping them ramp up something?
Well, there's a couple things I would recommend. For one, if they're in North America, a really great place to start is by going to teamsug.com. So TeamsUG, Josh is really familiar with, but that's a nonprofit organization that has a variety of different cities. How many are there, Josh? Like, got to be 30.
I believe we're at 23 now.
Okay,
and, yeah, there's maybe a couple more in the works as well, but it's up there.
Okay, so collectively they make up it used to be Skype UG, now Teams UG, and they are a really great resource to help you with starting your own user group in your own city. So you can see, if you go to their website, where the current locations are, and then there's information there about starting your own. So that would be great, and it's kind of a user group in the box. The content's created for you. They have quarterly meetings, and so you can kind of pull your speakers together, get your location, and it's in place if you don't want to start from scratch. So that's a really good resource.
I might have to reuse the user group in a box comment. That was good. I like
that. Well, yeah, because you guys, you all do so much of the work for people, so it's
right.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, so if you go to aka.ms/community events, that's the short link that takes you to the community events site within the Microsoft Tech community. And within that, you can join a community of discussion space for different people who are doing their own events. So it's a really great place to ask, hey, does anybody know about some event in this city? Or do you have best practices for starting your own user group? But for Teams, for Microsoft Teams specifically, we do have a team set up for community event organizers. So if you're interested in starting your own Or if you don't know what's going on in your own city and just kind of want to ask other people, if it's a one-time event or a monthly user group, quarterly user group, doesn't matter. We can add you to that team, and we've got some best practices in there, but it's also a really great place to ask other event organizers working on Microsoft Teams events specifically what they're doing today. So a couple different options I would point people to.
Great.
Thing I love about
go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say, the thing I love about that team is there's so much collaboration that goes on within the team as well. People just throwing questions out, getting guidance, getting even content here and there where it's relevant or acceptable to share. So very good resource for those looking to kind of get a hand with starting up stuff or finding stuff.
Yeah, the last thing we want is somebody to feel like it's a lot of work to put something like that together. The community is really important to Microsoft because we can't reach everybody on our own in every market the way we would like to. We just can't scale. And so it's people like you who are creating these events and inviting people into your own kind of community living rooms, whether that's a Microsoft office or a restaurant or, a partner office, to get together and not only just see each other face to face and meet other people that have similar interests and collaborate with them. And experiences, yeah. But also, to hear from other speakers that have in-depth knowledge about specific topics. And so one way that we can help is by providing content as a starting point. A lot of times we see speakers who are, looking on the internet to find the latest. They're merging a bunch of sessions together. And so we've created our own content for user group leads to use, whether they want to tailor that, make it their own, add their own information in, or, cut out certain things. That's absolutely an option. But we've tried to do that. But it's really nice when I see other community members sharing their decks that they've presented to with the rest of the community. It's really cool to see that.
One of the things that I like, and I go to the Teams user group here in Detroit, it's held at the Microsoft MTC downtown, is that, we get people from Microsoft that come in and sit in the meeting too, as they have time. But the slide decks are curated by kind of known people in the community, right? So whether it's an MVP or a master or whatever, it's quality content that's presented by, a local person in each city. But it's nice because people can just interject their own experiences. Well, that might be how Microsoft sees it. Here's how we see it. Or here's a problem that we saw, and get those people in the room talking about here's how we solved that problem, or, oh, we're about to go through that process. That's good to know. It's good tips. But also because sometimes we get vendors that come in, right? So the last one that I went to, the Jabra vendor came in and gave a 10-minute spiel about the Panicast camera and all this other stuff. So it's a great way to connect with those vendors because those are usually local salespeople or whatever the case may be, and see some of those products, or at least hear some of those products, as well as hear about some other community events that are happening, or even some bigger events, right? And so, Josh, you were telling me just before we started here about there was a big announcement about, the biggest conference of the year. So tell us about that.
So I think Laurie should tell us about that. We've all been waiting since practically the end of this big conference, where it's typically announced, to know when that's happening. But yeah, big announcement just landed today. What conference are we looking at, and when and where, Laurie?
Well, yeah, so pretty big news. We had a Microsoft Ignite announcement today, and we learned that Microsoft Ignite is now going to be in September, which had been in September in the past, and then moved to November in Orlando. And the dates this year are September 21st to the 25th, and that is going to be in New Orleans. So we'll shift of location, shift back into September. So I just learned today with Restview, but exciting that that's finally been announced.
I'm really glad that it's announced, for probably the biggest reason is because the stream of endless theories about what was going on with Ignite just kept going and going and got crazier and crazier. So I'm glad that we finally know what's happening, because everybody had been used to the last day of Ignite. We know when Ignite is going to be next year. And then we went from November all the way to, second half of January. So
Yeah.
it's good to know.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, it's just there's so many logistical things that the team goes through to figure out the site. And I can imagine that was not an easy task, but
no,
there it
finding
is.
a city that can handle it, and it's huge. So
Josh and I can certainly understand the logistics of trying to plan an event, right? Being involved with Comms VNext in Denver in August, but interesting that it's going to New Orleans.
Yeah.
We were talking before about, I've been there a few times for Tech Ed, so it'll be interesting to go back and see it again. It's a huge event, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. So.
Sounded like you were looking forward to some fried alligator while you were there.
I'm looking forward to some fried alligator. It was the first time I ever tried it. Was at Tech Ed, and darn it, it was pretty tasty. So
some Creole seasoning and some good stuff. It'll be a fun and new place compared to where it's been over the last few years. So I'm looking forward to that. But so that's the big news as far as, like you said, one of the biggest conferences of the year. Shifting that back over to community-based conferences, though. There are a number of them that have really popped up, and I would say either popped up or become more known or more mainstream over the last 2 to 3 years. Comms VNext that Pat and I are involved with is one. European Collab Summit is another big one that's really taken shape. There's a North American Collab Summit that's about to happen. And we're just kind of curious. You've had the opportunity to be at a lot of these conferences in your role with the community. And so you get a chance to either speak or attend or help with different elements of it. For those that are trying to or thinking about launching an event or a conference in their own area, what are some of the things that really make it work for these community conferences, make them take off, attract the right attention, and things that conferences that are succeeding, the things that they're doing right? Do you have a couple tips there that you can offer aspiring event organizers?
Well, one, you have to invite Laurie to show up, and
there's the first one. There we go.
Well, yeah, I've enjoyed a lot of really exciting travel over the last couple of years, in this role, and there's been some places that I never thought I would have the opportunity to go to that I've been able to attend some of these community events. This year I got to go to Colombia, beautiful, beautiful country for Get CS Latam. And next year that will be in Mexico. But, those are places that I get to go that I never thought I would be able to ever go to. And so it's really nice to be able to go there for work and meet the people and get to know the community a little bit. As far as, what are the things that make the events successful, I think, it's really helping people understand what they can get out of the event. And I think, up until I had this position, I had no idea that there was kind of this, I feel like it's almost like an underground community. It's just
right.
Not that it's secret. It's just, I had no idea it even existed, that there's this enormous community of IT professionals who share a passion around these products. And they put together amazing events, professional, just beautiful events. And it's a really an awesome place just not to go and learn, but just to get to know other people in the community. If you're an introvert like myself, I know I am truly an introvert. I know.
I have to chuckle at that.
I am a forced extrovert because of my job, but I will tell you, I'm an introvert and I don't like going places where I don't know people. And so I feel for people that are maybe interested in attending some of these events, but just don't want to go and have to talk to people that they don't know, or, it just isn't appealing. But I'll tell you, it's the most welcoming environment for anybody. So I would highly recommend, even if you don't think it's your thing, there's just really great content. The speakers at the events are excellent speakers. They know what they're talking about. And it's an opportunity not just to listen, but also to have discussion and ask questions and tell people your scenarios and kind of understand their recommendations, but have a two-way conversation rather than just be talked to. And some of that happens in the session and Q&A, but also beyond that, there's, opportunity to see each other in the hallway. There are social activities. There's, you can walk around and talk to the different vendors and have conversations and get to know people right there. It's a really good way to interact and socialize. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that we don't always know about these things. We hear about them, and sometimes thinking about going to conference, it's like, oh, how exhausting. You have to go and sit in a room for 8 hours, but the great thing about these community events is usually people go because they want to go. They're not being forced by their company or their boss to attend something. So it's a different environment and it's a different vibe. And I think that just sharing that and having people understand what is involved with these events is really important. And the ones that have been really successful have that element of collaboration and openness and bringing people in and being welcoming. So I really like that. And it's been a lot of fun to interact with everyone there.
One of the things that I've liked, having been in the industry for a zillion years, is you go to events like Tech Ed or Ignite or whatever the case may be. Those are huge events, right? Just the scale of those events, but they're very wide. They're not narrow focused, right? So they cover everything that Microsoft does. And for people that are more narrow focused, like Josh and I that work in the Teams community, sometimes we just want a dedicated conference that we can just go and everything's kind of about, what we work on day in and day out. Not that there's not a wealth of content at Ignite, but you stand in the event space, the vendor space, and that's a lot of vendors. 80% of them have nothing to do with what I do, day in and day out. So the nice smaller venues and the smaller events for the introverts. I mean, I'm a classic example. I'm in a room by myself just talking to a camera, so I'm okay. But just going to a smaller event where, like you said, people can just rub elbows with everybody else, that everybody at that event is kind of in that same ballpark of what we work on every day, I think is key. Now, you talked about going to Columbia, and you spoke at that event, right?
I did.
And so what's it like? Yeah. What did you talk about? I mean, you were the keynote, right?
I was, yeah. So, in Columbia, I don't speak Spanish, so I tried to speak very clear English, and hopefully I did an okay job. But the cool thing is that in PowerPoint, there's a translator, right? So it was able to translate my talk, which was nice. However, what I talked about was community and kind of how Microsoft uses community to build the product, and how important it is to not have us build a product in a vacuum, but actually listen to our customers and our partners and our users. And then I translated that into kind of how I use Microsoft Teams to manage my communities. So kind of went through the development process and how our team works as a whole, and then how I work as an individual managing communities and some of the features that we have in Microsoft Teams to manage communities, to bring people in, to make it feel more like a team, true team. And I pull from my remote work experience, as I'm sure both of you are familiar with, sitting in my office at home. I don't always feel like I have a big team, but using this product, I'm able to, feel more like I'm part of the team, but also for all of our, say, MVPs who are worldwide, bring everybody together and create an environment for collaboration that makes us feel like we're really, truly closer together than we actually are.
And you're going to be involved in the EU Collab Summit as well, right?
Yeah, the European Collaboration Summit I went to last year. I spoke there on user adoption, and I will tell you that event, I was completely amazed. It's in Wiesbaden, Germany, and this year it's happening in June. And it's really cool. There's almost 2,500 people, I think, expected, and it's just run really well. It's super, very professional, and it's just a really cool group of people. I was amazed. I didn't know what to expect. I had never been to Germany, hadn't been to Europe very much, and They were very welcoming, but also there was a really good mix of sessions, everything from really, really technical to higher level, 102 level, 200 level. And then they spanned from, there were some sessions on, say, Azure, but then there were really specific sessions on all aspects of Microsoft Teams and SharePoint, kind of the collaboration story all up. So that was a really great event, and I would highly recommend people to choose that as one of the ones that they travel to as well if they can. So
one of these days, I've got to make. I've heard so much good stuff about that event that I got to get over there for that.
We need to have a Comms VNext World Tour. So
we do. We need to hit up these other
research, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned, the 100 and 200 level sessions. That's key, right? Because not everybody that goes to these conferences is, somebody that's deep in the weeds of this. Some you get salespeople that go, you get management people that go, and so it's important, getting back to what are key things that you like to see in a community event. It's important to embrace all those different groups. You've got not just the IT pro folks, but you've got the salespeople and the management people. You've got the developers, right? So something that sometimes I struggle to be able to find on the Teams aspect at some of these events is, let's talk about how we can do some development, no code development, or stuff like Tom Morgan does, or whatever the case may be. So it's nice to have all those different tracks, as well as all the different varying levels from 100 top level stuff, just so we can go back and talk to an organization about, hey, did you know Teams can do this, down to the 300 and the 400 level, the people that are implementing all the stuff that is talked about in the 100 level. So that I think is key, and look forward to that. And Josh, we'll find a way of getting over to the EU Collab Summit.
Yeah, I'm planning on working my way over to Commsverse, and I need to figure a way to get that one in there too. We need to bug Adam Ball about that.
Commsverse is another good one. I'm excited about that too. Yeah, first year of Commsverse. So some exciting things planned there. That should be a great one. Again, focused on Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, they've done an excellent job of launching it in the social community, Twitter and LinkedIn. They've run some good campaigns and has some truly unique ideas. So I'm excited to watch it unfold.
Yeah, Mark Vail is a creative at heart, I think.
I think so.
We tend to talk to Mark and some of the people, Steve Goodman, and people that organize some of these events. So it's, we share some ideas. We talk about, what works, what doesn't work, and things like that. It's worked out really well. The community that is behind building the community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about something else that I saw at Ignite, and I've seen this at Microsoft events in the past, is Microsoft's big push around diversity. So in Ignite, there was some dedicated areas focused just on diversity. What is Microsoft doing? What is the concept behind Microsoft's vision of diversity, and how can we help?
That's a really great question. So Shona, who drives the what used to be called diversity and inclusion at Microsoft and now is Humans of IT, she does an excellent job at bringing the ideas of diversity and the different topics around diversity to our big kind of first tier big events. And it's exciting to see so many of the community events embracing that as well. So when you think about diversity, a lot of times we think race or gender, and those are kind of the first two things. When you look at IT, typically it's male dominated, and a lot of white males, right, in IT. And so when you think about diversity, it's kind of the first place everybody goes to. But the reality is that it's not only about gender. It's not only about our race, but there's so many other things like neurodiversity. When you look at the different disabilities or challenges that people have, myself, I have ADD. I did a session at Ignite around ADD with a couple of the other MVPs, and how we manage that and how we share that with people and how we work best with one another, and using the tools that Microsoft has actually to help us do a better job at managing, our challenges. And so I think that there are some things that aren't visible to people. And so just having those sessions where people talk about their experiences, challenges that they have personally, whether that's something within them or an experience that they've had in the past opens up our eyes and makes us more aware. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just awareness and understanding, if there's, words that you use, or, just different things that come up in day-to-day language that we may say that may not be really cool to say in another culture, or somebody that has a different background. And so sometimes there are things that I have said or things that I've done I had no idea that was insensitive to somebody else. And so there are little things that I've learned through the different diversity or humans of IT sessions and articles that I've read, one of which was some of the like when you do a hashtag and you use all lowercase letters, that the readers cannot decipher what those are. And so people who have who are hearing impaired that rely on, or people that are blind that rely on those different tools to help them, it won't decipher that. And so to use a capital on every word within the hashtag, right?
Camel case or Pascal case, yeah.
I never would have thought, I didn't realize that. And so now I try to be really cognizant of that and do that. So there's just little things that I think, we don't do because we're trying to exclude, or we're not trying to be rude or mean or anything, right? It's just, we don't know. And I think that, it's exciting to see the IT community kind of rally around this idea of diversity. And it doesn't have to be some, hardcore message or, anything that's offensive, or, it's just kind of bringing to light some of those things that we may not think about. And it's been cool just kind of hearing about and seeing other things that people are dealing with. And I think, as far as what can you do, is just continue to include those types of sessions in the events. And whether it's a piece of something you do in a session about something else, right? It's just including that. And in the events that I attend, the last couple, I have started to bring young women from the local area with me, one or two with me, to kind of just be my sidekick, and for a day or a couple of days, and just see what I do. Because one of the things that I hear is, there's not enough women in IT, or there's not enough female speakers at these events. And the reality is, like, you can't have 50% female speakers when you don't have 50% women in IT. Right. So as much as I, as a woman, would love to say, yes, we have just as many women speakers at this event, no, that doesn't make sense, because you want the right person to speak on the right topic. If that happens to be a man, great. If it happens to be a woman, great. But the idea is to get the right person to speak on the right topic. Now, once we have more women in the pool, that won't be as much of an issue. It won't be as visible, right? Because it'll just happen naturally, because you'll have just as many women experts as you have men experts, and then the pool is more even, and we see a more even list of speakers. So it's kind of like when you look at the issue of homelessness, are we just going to keep opening more homeless shelters, or are we going to treat the problem, right?
Right.
In this case, I think the problem is we don't have enough young women going into IT. And women traditionally respond better to kind of the social, I guess they're just more social by nature. And so I love exposing these young women to the idea of community and the community events, because they can see, like, hey, there's this other side to IT, right? It's not what I'm experiencing in school, where I'm one with 20 men in my class. It's, hey, there's all these other women there, there's all these other men there, there's all these other people who are just social people, or who have the same passion as you, that you can get to know and rely on, whether that's, becomes a virtual collaborative relationship, or whether that's, going to these quarterly user groups and meeting them on a regular basis. There's ways to interact with people and not sit in your basement in the dark and code all day, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Microsoft's done, not just in the conference realm, they have a lot of other really cool initiatives with STEM programs, et cetera, that they're involved in to, like you said, not just keep putting up more homeless shelters, but get to the root of where these where these perceptions, where these situations come from, and see what they can do to start spreading the word and including people at a younger age, and getting more people involved from a more broad perspective. It's really cool to see that unfold.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Good
And
thoughts.
I have a 10-year-old granddaughter who's now a whiz in all of her STEM areas too. So I started having that talk. What do you think you want to do? Because you could be in IT. There's so many different things you can do in IT,
Yeah.
and trying to drive that too. And I loved the whole humans of IT aspect at Ignite, and what they were doing. So kudos to Microsoft for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
It's all people, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. And
that's carried. It's
Go ahead.
carried over to the Ignited Tour. I see some really cool things happening with some sessions at some of the tour locations as well on that same track. So it's cool to see that being taken on the road and spread to different conferences. But,
Yeah, definitely.
And there's somebody who's responsible for the call for content for Comms VNext. We go out and we say, hey, let's think about moving that line closer to the middle for male versus female speakers, and who do we know out in the community, and let's reach out to them. Maybe they haven't thought about presenting before, and we go and talk to them and try to get them involved. And would you like to be involved? Would you like to speak, or would you like to be involved behind the scenes? Hey, we want to be all inclusive, right? And we don't care about those aspects. If somebody is interested in doing it, they're welcome in our event. And this year, as we prepare to start looking for speakers again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at people outside the norm that might be interested, and everybody's welcome to submit their ideas. So
yeah, absolutely. I think so many people have the imposter syndrome, like, well, I've never spoke before, I've never done that, so no, that's a big event, when the reality is they know their stuff. And if you're an expert and you know what you're talking about, share that knowledge. And you can start by doing user groups and some of the smaller things you're really not comfortable. That's, great way, great, safe, small audience to kind of get your feet wet. But don't be afraid. Put your name in the hat and just go have fun with it. Talk about what you love, and that passion shines through, right? You don't have to be an expert speaker. You can just be somebody that is really knowledgeable and loves what you do, and you're sharing that with everybody.
Yeah, I could say firsthand that a large number of MVPs even deal with imposter syndrome and feeling like they're just not at that level. Like they just got to ignore that. You got to just be confident in what you know and take it out to those audiences and run with it, and you'll be amazed.
And that it's not about just speaking at an event, right? I mean, it's doing all the things in the community, blogging and tweeting and all these other things that you can do if getting up in front of a large group of people is something that scares you to death, like it does me. At least get out there and share your experience and your knowledge and everything, because you're going to help other people. And I can't express. That's actually how I became an MVP, right? Years ago, I was just on a tech community at the time and just answering questions because it was hitting on experiences that I had, and suddenly that's how it happened. And now all these years later, I have great colleagues and friends, like the two of you, and that's really come back and rewarded myself in the job that I do, and in finding new jobs, and in excelling and advancing and everything. And the community is all responsible for that, and I can't thank it enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so fun to hear this. So fun to hear you say that. That really is what it's all about, sharing your knowledge and then collaborating with others, and I love that.
Yeah, it goes back to the earlier point. We're all people, and we've all got similar stories in the background. So it's just embrace it, run with it. All right, I'm going to change gears and kind of bring us toward the end of this, and I want to change gears from community and kind of from conferences a little bit to something that is related but loosely, and that is the topic of swag. When it comes to conference swag, I think you have built up quite a unique reputation in terms of being able to deliver on some of the most coveted and sought after swag at conferences.
Says the guy wearing the swag T-shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of those things exactly. I mean, we're talking about, you know, white Converses that are branded with Microsoft Teams and things like a frozen ice ball shaper that has the Microsoft Teams logo in it.
Well, that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, just
The
really
Xbox
cool and unique stuff.
controller. Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. The
Yeah.
Xbox remote, there's really cool things that are unique. And there are so many people that try to do well at swag, but just always feel like they fall really far short. So do you have any nuggets of wisdom, a secret that you're willing to share, or is that something you're going to keep all to yourself and just sit on top of that the master of swag title forever?
The swag throne.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. I think honestly, my swag expertise comes from being a mom of a 13-year-old and 11-year-old because you have kids, so
Yeah.
go to those birthday parties, you can get the swag bags at the end,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
What do you do with a swag bag when you get home from the birthday party? Think toddlers, right? You take it and you're like, this is going in the trash. Like, it was fun on the car
Garbage.
ride home, and now these pieces of plastic, unfortunately, are going in a landfill because it's just stuff, right? So my goal, or in Pat's closet. Pat has his closet of swag bags.
Well, no,
That
I was
closet
actually
is
pointing to
notorious.
my big Skype for Business pillow that I got at Ignite in Chicago, and then I had to find a way to get it home.
Yeah.
That's part two, right? Is fine. So there's lots of considerations when I'm thinking about swag. I've got to think about the international audience. Then you've got power cords to deal with, and you've got travel to deal with, right? Like, can this go in a carry-on or not? So I've had to nix a lot of ideas that I wanted to follow through with, but I couldn't because people wouldn't be able to travel with them very easily. But I always try to find something that's different and useful and has an element of fun. MVP Summit, I've got something up my sleeve, but it's not super useful, but I think you'll think it's fun. So I just try to look at things that aren't going to just be a paperweight or aren't just going to go in the garbage. Of course, everybody's not going to like everything, but just have fun with it.
Those are awesome pointers. But I mean, you're absolutely right. That's a great approach. So much stuff from conferences give you a little chuckle in the moment, and you take it home and you throw it away or whatever. It's just not, you don't use it anymore. Coming up with something that people are actually going to want to use or continue to find value in, it's tricky, but that's the key right there, I think. So. Awesome. Pat, I think we covered all of our topics, and we've probably talked Laurie to death here. So Laurie, thank you so incredibly much for being with us in the first Beard and Hat Show of 2020. I hope we get a better regular cadence moving forward. But thank you for joining us. Thanks for sharing your community insight. It's been awesome. And we can't wait to see you, I guess, on the circuits. There's plenty of places where you're going to be at conferences and stuff this year. So
absolutely. I'll be at North America Collab Summit first. So for anybody that's headed that way to Branson, Missouri, I will see you there. But hopefully I'll catch you at a user group or a community event. And thank you so much for having me and for having this show. It's fun to watch. So
yeah, we're finding our way. It'll be fun. I mean, when Pat's on, and it's going to be a good time, right? So. All right, cool. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you for the next Beard and Hat Show.